What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look back at Left 4 Dead 2, an incredible game, and obviously a sequel to also an incredible game that we covered last year during this Halloween month, where I just look at horror games exclusively for the month of October. I think this is our third year doing it, and I always have a blast with this. So Left 4 Dead 2 is up next here, and my wife and I went back and played it. You're going to see that in the split screen here. I really love this game. And look, honestly, it's a lot of similar stories that I told for Left 4 Dead 1 back last year. These games were very, very special to me. I guess still are very special to me. They're timeless. They really are. They were games I played a lot of at a friend's house, and that was really my exposure to them. They kind of, at times, they would blend in with each other because I never really owned a copy myself. I mean, now that I'm married, I think my wife actually had both of these games. I think we actually have 2 copies of Left 4 Dead 2 for some reason, but here we are. So the games do tend to blend together. Like, I think of the Carnival, that's like the standout, I guess, I think, to the characters, to be honest with you. And I will say, okay, upon replaying it, and I replayed Left 4 Dead 1 last year, played Left 4 Dead 2 this year, like, the game, again, it's incredible, but it is a step up. It really is a step up from the first game. Visually, I mean, even the opening cinematic looks so freaking good. I mean, this was 2009. I mean, it was, at this point, like, we are actually getting up there 16 years ago, but the game in that way looked phenomenal. And look, when you're actually going through the game, the number one thing that stood out to me was the dismemberment. You know, when you would take shots, or I would take shots at the zombies, you could, like, take out huge pieces of them. And, you think of games like, I mean, we just had, like, Dying Light the Beast, right, which is a really good game. Dying Light, Dead Island 2 a couple years ago. Some of these games very much focused on one of the main elements is when you cleave a zombie, you'll be able to see, like, the mark on its arm, or if you hit them in the head, like, the head will kind of open up, like, it'll go that far. Well, to be honest with you, a game like this, and I was reading kind of some behind the scenes for Left 4 Dead 2, that was an element to this game. They kind of went in and they were able to kind of achieve more specifics, with each character, each zombie. So when you took them out or took shots at them, right, you could really see what you were actually, hitting off of them. So I was really, I mean, beyond just visuals, because visuals and audio, I mean, like, you hear like the witch's cry, right? That's a haunting kind of sound that will forever scare you, no matter how old or young you are. But you think about, like, that stuff's incredible. But I would say the smaller details like that, I would take a shot at a zombie and you could shoot him in, like, the side of, like, the stomach, and it'll take him out, take that part of the body out, I should say. So I was really impressed by that, and that's even, like, the technical side. This is a game that's 16 years old, so how does it kind of still hold up in that way? Look, the frame rate's pretty bad. I think I probably talked about that last time. Looking it up, though, I did see, like, 360 generally had those issues. Left 4 Dead primarily, I think even from the first game, was more towards a PC audience, which is cool, and that they even, were doing that. Kind of a dying thing to make games for PC, like, specifically in these type of games. So I could understand PC running better. I was playing this, 360 copy on the Series X. I mean, look, it ran good enough. I would actually comment to my wife several times, and maybe you can see it from the footage. I would swear that I was missing enemies and I would still hit them. And to me, it looked like I missed, and it would give me, like, a headshot. So I think the game, at least in that way, is very, very forgiving, where you could kind of miss, and the distance of swinging a sword or whatever, you actually have more space than you think you do, or the game will give you more space. So I really like that. Obviously, the AI director, that was the big thing with Left 4 Dead 1, Left 4 Dead 2, the fact that it can kind of read you, right? Or read how you're doing. So if you're spending more time in the environment or in the the level, it'll give you more things. It'll almost, like, prolong it for you if you're doing it. So just really, in that way, a genius game. Like, you go through these campaigns and each of them are so distinct, so special. They obviously tell an overarching story, from 1 to 5. I forgot that, I mean, like, we were looking through and we have all the DLC. I think there were, like, 8 DLC missions, and there were, obviously 5 in the base game. I think there was 5 in the original. Quite a bit. I mean, this was almost the era, though, right? Like 2009, late 2000s, early 2010s. This was kind of the era where there would almost be so much DLC for certain games that it actually outweighed, the base game. The The thing is, the base game I think did have enough though, right? Because those 5 campaigns just on like normal difficulty and just my wife and I playing, they would take you like an hour a piece. And you could ramp it up. You could take more time going around the environment, and there's more modes, right? Like for these experiment things, like for the channel and for these videos, I really only do the campaign. But I remember growing up, Versus is the one that really stands out to me. And we didn't play it now, but this game kind of did bulk up, right? It had campaign, had Versus, had survival, and had scavenge, and then also has that realism mode. I had seen that. I think I've always seen it. Like I've always scrolled right by it, right? No matter what year it is that I play Left 4 Dead 2, even back in the day, I would always scroll by it. I didn't really know what it does. I looked it up even on Wikipedia. It's, realism mode. You can maybe figure it out for yourself, but it's legit. Like things don't light up unless you're like right next to them. Survivors don't light up. If a teammate dies, you have to do a defibrillator on them. You can't just open a door, for them to do it. I think a witch is an instant kill instead of like a knockdown. So that's like a big one as well. So really cool stuff. That would make it, I think, much more difficult. Look, I think I talked about this with Left 4 Dead 1. I want to talk about it a little bit here as well. AI can either be geniuses or they can be the biggest idiots on the planet. Like really. And I'm pretty sure I said that in the first game, but I have examples now, at least in my footage that I did this time. I mean, look, they can be very smart, and they kind of come in clutch when you need them. They oftentimes take out a lot of the specialty zombies for you. Sometimes you forget that they have a health pack, and then they just heal you at kind of the best time. So in those ways, the AI is pretty smart. They're always kind of around, like they're always like ready to help. The issue is sometimes I think their brains can literally just explode, because there was a situation, I think my wife and I, we were doing the concert, and immediately she got hit. One of us got hit by like a tank, and one of us got like snatched by something. So we were both split up, and it took the AI years to save my wife, but then they ended up saving her, and I just died. And actually, I think eventually she died too. So I think sometimes if there's too much going on, the AI just can't do it. Really what I think it is if both of you get taken out by something, like a jockey jumps on you or a smoker grabs you or whatever, I think, if one of them does it, the AI is pretty quick in like coming in for the rescue and maybe getting to you faster than like one of us could. Oftentimes they would rescue my wife much faster than I could rescue her. But if both of us got taken out at the same time by different specialty zombies, oh, we're screwed. Except for maybe like a boomer. But beyond that, you're done for. The AI literally can't compete with that. So I think the first game had that problem as well. This game does too. But generally, I'll give it to them. And look, I talk about the AI in terms of the characters. Well, one thing I want to highlight too, though, is, and I think it was something that they tried to stress going into this game, there's a lot of really nice natural conversation. It's something that the first game has more than I kind of remembered it having. And this game, I would say, probably had it more than I remember. A lot of the story is told through just these kind of casual conversations. Really the only heavy cinematic thing is in the very beginning of the game, right? Just the opening thing. The rest of it, very much, getting from point A to point B, and the characters are talking to each other, right? You'll be taking the elevator down. They'll say, okay, here's the plan. Like, we're going to take that car, but, the car, like, it's a model car, right? So they don't fill it up with gas, so we have to get gas. And these are conversations. So it's a lot of info and story, really, right? Kind of this background stuff being fed to us through just very casual, like, back and forth with these 4 characters. Now, some of them will talk more than others, and some of them kind of have a bigger personality than others, but I really, really love that, to be honest with you. I think that's kind of a dying art. I think it was dying back then. I think it's dying now. Look, I like cinematics. I love, pretty visuals and, 4 or 5 minute cutscenes where they tell you a lot of stuff. But I think there is an art, to be honest with you, with just, you're going through the level and, the casual conversations between these characters without relying on cinematics, that kind of carries the story. It's something that it can go wrong because it can kind of get so much in like the back burner that you don't really care. The thing is, these characters have enough kind of swagger, they have enough personality where you want to listen to them, and they're charismatic, and they can also kind of tell you, info while telling you maybe a funny story on the side. They're able of doing multiple things there. So, while the AI, when they're moving around, might not be the smartest people in the world, what they're doing in terms of that storytelling, I think is phenomenal. The gameplay, I talk about, what an actual hit will do against an enemy, but talk about the AI of the zombies. And again, that goes to that director 2.0 type thing. I mean, they are very smart. You'll be kind of anticipating they're coming from a wall, and they'll kind of come behind you. It really is actually astounding how they can get so many of them on the screen. It does look pretty. It gets so overwhelming so quickly. There really is a survival feel to this game that I think is very, I don't really want to say underrated. It's one of the greatest games of all time. I think a lot of people would call it that, but you almost kind of forget, right? 16 years old, maybe you haven't played it in a while. Like, there's something very special to just these waves, because there's almost something, there is something special with each wave, right? They'll throw something slightly new and different at you from one wave to the next. And you can, look, my wife has played this like 50 times, right? More than I have. And she'll be able to call out like, okay, normally there's a witch here. And sometimes a witch will be there. Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it'll be slightly more down the road than when she thought it was going to be. So, even if you've played it like a ton, literally a ton, yes, generally like, okay, when a tank is going to appear, but you don't know where. Like, it might come down one hallway one time, another hallway another time. And the way that the music complements it, and like the ground shakes, I think maybe the controller shakes, like it's scary when a tank enters the fray or when a witch is there, right? Especially depending on the difficulties you're playing. Like, and that's sound design, that's visuals, that's, the gameplay is very rewarding. It feels really, really good to shoot off the shots, or to swing a guitar, or to swing a sword. So many things I think have to work really well, and the speed is so, again, like, it's fast. There's a lot of waves. There's a lot of, okay, we're going to go to this area, get attacked by so many of them. 5 minutes late, maybe not even 5 minutes, maybe you get like 30 seconds to breathe, and then you have another wave of zombies. So the flow, I think that's something that's kind of important too, especially with modern games. The flow is so good that each, again, campaign, right, is about an hour, and in that hour, the amount of downtime you have, like when you get to the safe room, you feel like you've gone through the gauntlet. You feel like you have to rest, like they have to rest. And I think that's a very special, thing that they just pulled off, because the pacing can be rather difficult. I was just talking about this, I think, when it comes to like Battlefield and Call of Duty, campaigns, that maybe it's harder than we thought, to make some of the greatest Call of Duty campaigns or Battlefield campaigns, because we don't just get them, nowadays. And I kind of feel, I know it's a different type, but it is a shooter in a lot of ways. I feel kind of the same about Left 4 Dead. I feel like doing, this, really, it's just 5 hours, 5, 6, 7 hours. But, the AI is so important. Their replayability is so important. The other modes, granted that we're not talking too much about in this video, but the other modes are so important. It is something that's a dying breed. And I wouldn't even say dying. It might be dead, because you just really, look, we got Back 4 Blood. And I think I'm going to try to replay, because I played it back when it first came out. I might replay Back 4 Blood next year for Halloween month, but it's been tried. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Where it's like, well, there's not too many people trying and too many games that are like Left 4 Dead, and that's true. But then when we do get games that are like it, they don't even do it as good. And Left 4 Dead is an aging game, and it still does it better than pretty much anything that we can get nowadays in the genre. I'm not necessarily saying it's the greatest game of all time, but it's a very special game. A lot of the things just don't age. Really, it's the frame rate, I would say, at least on Xbox, is like the main, maybe like relic of the past. You could say, maybe nowadays you wouldn't expect it, and you also maybe wouldn't have the patience for a game that runs like that now versus back then. I would say, like, playing it right now, I almost give it a pass, and maybe that's not right, to be honest, because I try to call out when games have terrible performance. That's something that I think back then, or playing a game that's almost 20 years old, right? You look at it and you say, you know what, I'll take a bad frame rate or two. Like the controller, for me, playing on the controller, actually both my wife and I. The sensitivity is way too, like, when you shift it just a little bit, you might as well do a 360 because it's so touchy. And even towards the highest of sensitivity, when you do that, it's still, and I feel like that kind of goes to the energy of the game though. Like even when it's the most like non-sensitive, it's not very heavy. It's pretty light, and I feel like that kind of just complements the game, because the game, you're always moving, you're always aiming, like a 360, 180 thing, like an enemy's right behind you, then it's right in front of you. So, you're always on the move. I feel like the sensitivity kind of balances it, but such a special game. It really is. And it's a game just like Left 4 Dead 1. I can really put it in and play it. Really, I mean, nowadays it's once a year. Back in the day, it used to be more than that, but it's a game that never really gets old, to be honest. It is one of the better games of all time. It's definitely one of the better zombie games of all time, first-person shooters. I mean, it's up there in pretty much any category you want to put it in. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.